there's a merger that has apparently been completed. The commissioners of the Big Ten, the Pac-12, and the ACC made it official this week, announcing an alliance between the three leagues, but they offered little as far as concrete plans for the future. Instead, the group announced that the alliance was a handshake agreement with a unanimous support from all members, born from a mutual appreciation for academics, quote unquote, sponsoring sporting events, and general pursuit of social justice, gender equality, diversity, and inclusion. Tuesday's announcement did not offer a clear path forward as far as scheduling and whether we're going to get interconference play between these three conferences, but there was a quote from one AD that says, "There is an air of cooperation. We don't know what opportunities might come from it." So you might look at this and say, well, that's a whole lot of nothing. And on some level, you are correct. It does sound like a whole lot of nothing. But let me just get down to the reason why that these conferences kind of came together in the manner that they did and made this announcement at least. It is because they are seeing so much control, so much power, so much influence, and so much spotlight put on one conference, and that is the Southeastern Conference, the SEC. And what triggered this really was the defection of both Texas and Oklahoma from the Pac-10 or from the Pac-12 to the SEC. They're going to be going over there. Those are two huge schools, two historic schools that are now leaving their own conferences in pursuit of more money, more credibility, higher competition in the SEC. And we already know about the SEC bias because the SEC is put on a pedestal more so than any other team. They have an advantage in recruiting, or any other conference. They have an advantage with recruiting. They have an advantage with getting bigger deals because there is such a spotlight and so much clout in the SEC, and there's so much. There's over the years they've built that up to where they're an unstoppable machine. Really, every year there's at least two teams from the SEC that are in the college football playoff, and there's only 4 spots. So that's why this alliance was announced. That's why that these 3 conferences are going forward in the way they are. You might be asking yourself, what could a partnership look like? And honestly, I'm not sure about the details, but one thing I think you can definitely expect, maybe not next year, but 2-3 years down the line, you could definitely expect interconference play. You can 100% expect that because these 3 conferences are going to have to put their heads together, put their resources together to somehow compete with the juggernaut that is the SEC. And the best way to do that is put your best teams against each other throughout the year, maybe 2 to 3 games a year on the schedule or interconference play. And you do that in order to make the competition stiffer and put more spotlight on your teams. Excuse me. And the other thing you have to also take into play with the interconference play is making sure you schedule these things in the best way for logistics to work out, because Pac-12 and Big Ten, sometimes that involves 6-hour flights over the weekend and then 6 hours back. So because you're traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast maybe. So there's logistics that need to be figured out, but those will be figured out. Those 100% will be figured out. And that's the biggest crucial aspect of this that needs to be addressed early on, rather, because if you're the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the ACC before Texas and Oklahoma leave, you want to have already had some interconference game played, so that by the time that they're already gone by 2025, you have this level of credibility at least built up between these 3 conferences that some of your teams are elevated to the level of an SEC, or at least, on somewhat of an equal playing field. And that's what this is all about. Making sure that they are able to maintain a level of respectability and credibility comparatively to the SEC. As far as what this might mean for college football, I think this is necessary. This is necessary. And look, it might set a trend, because there's a lot of conferences in college football that never get a chance at stuff like this. Like, if I'm like the Mountain West Conference, if I'm all these other conferences, dude, combine, like, let's go. If you want to compete with even these conferences right now, you have to be thinking about this right now, because those conferences are always overlooked. So maybe this starts a trend of conferences pooling their resources together. Maybe we see mergers happening out of this, because this is not an all-out merger. This is more of an alliance, is the quote from the report that I read. But it's necessary. It's necessary because if they just allow this to happen and allow the SEC to just consolidate more and more talent, more and more resources, more and more clout, more and more credibility, over time, these conferences were just going to fade out, and Pac-12 wasn't going to become anything better than, like the Mountain West, and then that's I know that sounds weird to say, but that's just true. So this is necessary. This had to happen, and it had to happen in a way that made sure that made sure that the resources were pooled quickly. So it's a huge announcement, by the way. It is huge for college football, and it honestly might have saved some of these teams, some of these conferences from, who knows? Look, the Pac-12 lost two huge schools. That is huge for them to lose those teams. And over time, they weren't getting that better. They were not getting that better. Over time, Big Ten was also losing some schools. Who knows what would happen to Notre Dame after more stuff is consolidated in the SEC? Would they have to become a part of it? And, we might even see we might see Notre Dame go over to the ACC full time. We know they tried that on a trial basis last year. Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also, remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.